Today we're talking about people-pleasing behavior. Did you know that some of us are more prone to these people-pleasing types of behaviors? Well, me included. How about you? Do you know if you're more inclined to being a people pleaser? As I've been recovering from burnout, I've been gently reflecting on my experience. And if you'd like to learn more about burnout and my burnout experience, please check out the 2 videos that I've linked below in the description. In reflection, the idea of people-pleasing came up repeatedly, and to be honest, I haven't really wanted to peer that much into it. I had this thought that younger me has already done this inner healing work on those aspects of myself, so really, what is there left to heal in that area? But then there's another voice within me that clearly knows that my purest intention is to recover and heal from the burnout that I recently experienced. And part of that is to give myself some time and space to sit with the parts of me that have been conditioned to please people. I don't actually consider myself a people pleaser. And maybe it's just the phrase itself, people pleaser. I don't really like it. For me, it evokes this image of a very good girl, a goody two-shoe, a submissive, compliant girl who seeks approval in her life. Like, is this a brown noser? Because I have an aversion to those. And here's where I feel a sense of cringe come up in my body, if I'm being honest. I feel it in my throat and in my forehead and behind my eyes, and it feels slightly confusing, dizzying, and even a little nausea. There's something there that makes me uncomfortable to face. Because current me, I don't identify with someone like that. In fact, in a lot of ways, I can be the opposite of that image. Yet I need to confront the people-pleasing tendencies that do still exist within me in order to heal those parts of me that are coming up to be freed, and so that I can better protect my energy in the future. The thing with people-pleasing behaviors is that we prioritize the needs of others over our own. It's very possible that we aren't acknowledging what our needs are, or that we have any at all. We may think, oh, I know what I need, but then we don't give ourselves what we need because we're putting everyone else's needs before our own. So, how did we end up being adults with people-pleasing behaviors? When we were children, we learned that it was best for our survival. It was a coping mechanism. We learned that being pleasant and pleasing equaled keeping the peace, maintaining harmony, and helping to avoid conflict. If we expressed how we truly felt, it could rock the boat. Well, being agreeable was the correct show of behavior because it ensured our safety. And this is how we felt useful. Also where we found our worthiness. By being helpful, accommodating, compliant, and pleasing to others, our fear of rejection and abandonment would ease. We developed this coping mechanism because as children, we experienced situations wherein we did not feel safe to express our own thoughts, our feelings, and needs. If we learned that being our authentic selves would have negative consequences, then we also learned how to turn ourselves into being who others wanted us to be. We learned that it was our job to fix, to help, to aid, to please others, and to change ourselves because this is how we could fit in and belong. If you can relate to any of this, it's nothing to feel ashamed of because as human beings, we're social creatures and it's really hardwired in us to be in relationships with others. So naturally, we have a need to feel loved and feel like we belong. Okay, we briefly just went over how we developed people-pleasing behaviors in our young lives. And now, as adults, why are we still showing up with these behaviors? And what's the impact to us? Although we might think that we've long healed coping mechanisms of people-pleasing behaviors, there may still be some aspects of it that are asking us to further heal and let go of these behaviors. In order for us to heal and further let go of this, we need to ask ourselves, what might we be getting out of continuing to use this as a coping mechanism? What present situations are we in that have its root in fear, where we have a deeply rooted sense of fear of rejection and abandonment? What situation are you in that you need to cope with that deep down has you feeling scared of something in some way? As an adult, I guarantee that all of those scary situations have to do with relationships. Think about your romantic, familial, friend, and work relationships. Maybe in one or some of your relationships, there's a tension or conflict going on. At work, there could be a lot going on, heavy workload, plus some manipulative personalities, and they're the ones that are in the positions of authority, right? Maybe you're currently taking care of elderly parents, and that can bring about a lot of emotions and opinions and tensions, not just with them, maybe with your siblings. For me, it was the work situation. It turned into a toxic work environment for me, and at the root of the people-pleasing behaviors that I inadvertently performed was fear. I was scared to fully express my ideas and opinions, scared to say no, I can't take on any more work at this time, because I feared that I would be judged as non-compliant and therefore not a good employee. Ultimately, I was afraid of how their judgments on me would negatively impact my success at work. The work situation unconsciously triggered me to inadvertently perform unhealthy people-pleasing behaviors that ultimately led to burnout. So next up, what's the impact of people-pleasing behaviors? As adults, the impact of people-pleasing behaviors leads to chronic exhaustion and burnout from overextending ourselves. This is in personal relationships and in work relationships. It leads to being overwhelmed. It leads to a loss of identity, because if we've been prioritizing the needs and wants of others, we neglect our own desires and needs to the point that we don't even know what we actually want. Resentment builds up too, because we're not getting the acknowledgement or the recognition and appreciation that we're seeking as an exchange for our selflessness. Our actions are not getting us what we need from the other. Instead, we feel we're being taken advantage of and grow resentful. People-pleasing behavior can increase the risk of stress, anxiety, and depression. If you're anything like me, once you become aware of what's happening and what you're doing that's impacting your well-being and health, you're going to want to heal and reprogram that part of you for a greater sense of freedom and expansion within. Okay, so now, how are we going to help ourselves? What can we do to recover from the people-pleasing tendencies that we still have? Well, depending on where you are with this coping behavior and how much it's impacting your spiritual well-being and health, you may need to see a licensed therapist. With the help of a therapist, I've unpacked a lot of my stuff throughout the years. But if you're like me now, then you're at a point where you're ready to practice more useful behaviors that are in line with your core values and self-worth. You are willing to take responsibility for your spiritual wellness and mental health, and you're ready to start changing. Working with a consultant or a guide or coach can help you to stay accountable to the version of yourself that you need to update. So let's get into 3 key ways that you can start changing people-pleasing behaviors now into new habits that are much healthier for you spiritually and mentally. It's important to know where in your life you've been falling into these types of behaviors. So do get honest with yourself. As once we're honest with ourselves, we can take responsibility and we can take care of ourselves. And this here is where the reinvention begins. I'm focusing on 3 ways, so it won't feel overwhelming to start to change, and because they're fundamental to changing outdated behaviors that don't serve our well-being. The first one is, we must put ourselves first. This is a new mindset that we must adopt for ourselves, and it's key because this will help to reprogram. You may have a hard time believing this at first, but if your desire is to have spiritual wellness and health, then you need to affirm this repeatedly. Given your conditioning and your life experience, it's perfectly reasonable to put yourself first. Remember, you're predisposed to overfunction in your relationships, so you need to overwrite that programming to one that inherently serves your well-being. And this leads to number 2, which is put this new mindset into action. The specific actions behind the mindset of putting yourself first are necessary displays of showing yourself care, like actually taking care of yourself and giving yourself respect and compassion. So in action, that can look like this. I need some time off because I feel tired. I need some time to rest. I'm tired of working for someone else right now, feeling tired of worrying for my kids, tired of working for my parents. I'm tired of working for my partner right now. I'm tired of doing all the things for everyone else right now. So I need to put myself first and take some time off. Could also look like I have a scheduling conflict. I can't make the party. I can't make the dinner, the meeting, the appointment, whatever you're being invited to do. You must practice saying no. If this makes you immediately uncomfortable somewhere in your body, it's totally understandable. Your nervous system may be feeling fear, but here's where we have to work to reprogram ourselves. We have to practice saying no. You can think of it as an experiment. While it's important that we clearly communicate no, there's a lot of ways to actually say no. For example, I have a scheduling conflict and I won't be able to make dinner plans. Or I have a lot on my plate right now and I can't take anything more on for the time being. Make a quick list of the different ways that you can say no, including simply no thank you, that you can experiment with as you practice integrating these new habits. And number 3 is practice boundary setting. This is not as easy for the people-pleasing types, the empaths, recovering codependents, and HSPs, as it may be for other people. But if we desire to live authentically, wholly, in alignment with our core values, then we must learn to take good care of ourselves by protecting our life force energy. Setting limits around ourselves can be hard because we're afraid that if we set those limits with others, there'll be negative consequences. We are well practiced in over-functioning in our relationships, giving everyone access to our energy by prioritizing their needs over ours. With boundary setting, we're consciously flipping that script. Setting boundaries places limits on our energy. It's to protect us from overwhelm, anxiety, resentment, burnout, being taken advantage of. Setting boundaries helps us to place limits on our limitless giving natures. Having boundaries helps us with self-acceptance, showing us where our own limits lie. If you're ambitious with your time and energy like me, you have to accept that despite those ambitions, you have limitations, and that is okay. You have to be honest and accept things about yourself that maybe you're initially resistant to. So setting up boundaries is a way that we can give ourselves the protection we're worthy of, as well as a way to practice self-acceptance of what our limits are. One way to start with setting boundaries is to write down or make a voice memo of the boundaries that you already have set and the boundaries that you would like to set but haven't. For example, I have a boundary around my workouts. I don't answer any calls during that time, and key people are aware of that. And that works for me. One boundary I'd like to set but that I haven't yet is I would like for my lunch breaks to be free of people interruptions. How can I set that boundary? Maybe I can let people know that I won't be able to respond during lunch breaks except for if it's an emergency, or maybe like Mondays or Wednesdays or something like that. Whatever I come up with though, it has to feel like I can commit myself to it. It can change, the boundary can change, but only after I've honestly committed to enforcing it, enforcing the one that I've come up with, right? So having a list of boundaries you already have and the boundaries that you want to create, and then start committing to that, can help you get more comfortable with your ability to set those boundaries. And this is just what you need to change your tendency for people-pleasing behaviors into healthier coping habits. To conclude, I just want to add that inherent to those 3 specific ways that you can start to change those people-pleasing tendencies, Again, 1, put yourself first. 2, put this mindset into action. 3, practice boundary setting. So all of those require us to practice self-advocacy, which involves clear communication of personal needs and limits and speaking up for ourselves to honor our needs without guilt. I know how scary that can be, but just know that if you're making these efforts to practice these 3 things that I share with you, you will be making serious strides on your ability to speak up for yourself at the same time. Courageous ones, thank you so much for being here and for listening. I hope that you found something here useful. And for now, I'm wishing you bright blessings in your day, and I'll catch you on the next vid. If you like this, please subscribe, please like. Thank you again.